Do you feel your confidence slipping away even when you've done nothing wrong? It could be your habits silently working against you. Think about it. Most of us don't realize how much small, everyday actions affect the way we see ourselves. You might wake up feeling good, ready to take on the world, only to find that by the end of the day, your confidence is nowhere to be found. And no, it's not always because of big, obvious failures or mistakes. It's the little things, those unnoticed behaviors and thought patterns that chip away at your self-esteem every single day. Maybe it's the constant comparison to others, or that inner voice telling you you're not good enough. Perhaps it's procrastination, leaving you feeling overwhelmed and incapable, or it could even be over-apologizing, letting people walk all over you while undermining your own worth. These habits seem harmless at first, but over time, they have a huge impact on how we feel about ourselves and our abilities. It's like death by 1,000 cuts, and before you know it, your confidence has been slowly drained without you even noticing. But here's where Stoicism can help. This ancient philosophy isn't just for philosophers and deep thinkers. It's a practical, down-to-earth approach to life that can empower you to take control of your mind, your actions, and ultimately, your confidence. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca believed that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And that mindset can change everything. By understanding and applying Stoic principles, you can break free from these habits that hold you back and start rebuilding your self-esteem from the ground up. Before we get started, if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me keep spreading Stoic philosophy and sharing these practical tools with you. Now take a moment to think about your own life. Which of these habits are silently holding you back? Are you letting them eat away at your confidence without even realizing it? Stay with me as we go through 10 everyday habits that could be killing your confidence, and how you can change them using Stoic wisdom. Habit number 1, negative self-talk. We've all been there, those moments when we catch ourselves thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed." It's like having an inner critic who never shuts up, constantly questioning your worth and ability. Negative self-talk is a habit that erodes your confidence over time. At first, it might seem like a passing thought, something you can shake off. But when it becomes a constant companion, it chips away at your self-esteem, making you doubt your abilities and question your worth. Every time you tell yourself, "I can't do this," or "I'm not smart enough," you're reinforcing the belief that you're not capable. And when you constantly feed yourself these thoughts, it's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand. Eventually, that house will crumble. Negative self-talk can lead to self-doubt, anxiety, and missed opportunities. You end up trapped in a cycle of overthinking, second-guessing yourself, and staying stuck, all because you can't silence that inner voice telling you that you're not enough. But what if you could change the narrative? What if instead of letting these thoughts control you, you could turn them into opportunities for growth? This is where Stoicism comes in. One of the key Stoic principles is amor fati, which translates to love of fate. It's the idea that we should embrace everything in life, good and bad, as an opportunity for growth. Instead of criticizing yourself for your flaws and mistakes, amor fati encourages you to accept them and use them as stepping stones for improvement. Imagine Sarah, a colleague who constantly criticized herself for not being perfect at work. Every time she made a mistake or didn't meet her own high standards, she would beat herself up, telling herself she wasn't cut out for her job. This negative self-talk created a barrier between her potential and her reality. But one day, she remembered a Stoic teaching, amor fati. She realized that by constantly fighting against her imperfections, she was missing out on the chance to learn and grow. Sarah started embracing her mistakes and imperfections. Instead of thinking, "I messed up again, I'm a failure," she would pause and ask herself, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" Slowly, she began to shift her mindset. She stopped seeing mistakes as reflections of her worth and instead viewed them as opportunities to improve. Her confidence grew as she focused on progress, not perfection. Here's what you can take away from this. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, whether it's about your abilities, your appearance, or your actions, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, how can I turn this into a lesson or opportunity? Maybe you didn't nail that presentation at work, but what could you have done differently? How can you improve for next time? Or perhaps you didn't get that promotion you were aiming for. What skills can you develop to increase your chances next time? The truth is, the only way to stop the cycle of negative self-talk is to change the way you talk to yourself. Recognize that your thoughts have the power to shape your reality. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, you'll start to believe it. But if you begin to embrace your flaws and see them as part of your journey toward growth, you'll start to build confidence from the inside out. Remember, your thoughts shape your reality. So, be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a friend who's struggling. Offer encouragement, understanding, and compassion. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that you are enough, flaws and all. And each mistake is just another chance to grow stronger. So next time you catch yourself spiraling into negative self-talk, pause, take a breath, and ask, how can I use this to become better? Your confidence is waiting for you to embrace it. Habit number 2, comparing yourself to others. We live in a world where comparison is as easy as a few taps on a screen. Social media, with its perfectly curated posts and filtered images, has created an environment where it feels impossible not to compare ourselves to others. You scroll through Instagram, see someone else's success, and suddenly you start questioning your own worth. Why don't I look like that? Or why aren't I achieving those things? This constant comparison, often without even realizing it, quietly chips away at our confidence, making us feel inadequate and unworthy. The truth is, this habit of comparing ourselves to others is a silent killer of self-esteem. It fosters feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and frustration. And the worst part? It's not based on reality. Social media only shows the highlights, the best moments, the filters, never the behind-the-scenes struggles, the failures, or the hard work. You're not comparing yourself to someone's real life, you're comparing yourself to their highlight reel. But here's the thing, comparing yourself to others is a fruitless exercise. It drains you of energy, makes you feel less than, and distracts you from your own unique journey. The Stoics, with their timeless wisdom, had a principle that speaks directly to this issue, memento mori. It translates to remember death, and it's a reminder of the fleeting nature of life. Our time is limited. The moments we waste comparing ourselves to others are moments we'll never get back. David was one of those people who couldn't help but scroll through social media, comparing his life to everyone else's. He'd see his friends traveling, succeeding, living their dreams, and he'd feel an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. Why am I not doing those things? He'd ask himself. Why don't I have what they have? But then, one day, David came across a quote that made him pause. Memento mori. Remembering death didn't mean dwelling on the end of life. It was a reminder to focus on what really matters and to cherish the time we have. David realized that comparing his journey to others was pointless. Life was too short to waste in comparison. He started to focus on his own path, his own growth, and his own unique journey. The power of memento mori is that it helps you put things into perspective. When you remember that life is short, you start to value your own progress, your own efforts, and your own experiences. Instead of scrolling endlessly and wondering why you don't measure up, you begin to focus on your personal growth, on the things that truly matter to you. Here's a practical piece of advice. If you find yourself getting caught in the comparison trap, start limiting your time online. Set boundaries. Maybe you only check social media for a few minutes each day, or you decide not to check it at all before bed. This will reduce the temptation to compare yourself to others. Another great way to reframe this habit is by journaling your own achievements, no matter how small. Write down your wins, your progress, and what you're proud of. This simple act shifts your focus from what others are doing to what you are doing, and that's where real growth happens. I know it's tough. It can feel like everyone around you is living a life you wish you had. But here's the reality. Everyone is on their own journey, and you have yours. Your life is uniquely yours. It's a story that no one else can live. So instead of looking around and wishing for someone else's life, focus on making your own the best it can be. Remember, memento mori. Life is short. Embrace your journey fully. Your progress, your growth, and your successes are what matter most. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone. Your life is unique. Celebrate it. Habit number 3, procrastination. You've been putting it off for days, weeks, maybe even months, the project, the task, the goal that you know you should be working on, but every time you think about starting, something inside you just freezes. Maybe you're overwhelmed by the sheer size of it, or perhaps you're just not sure where to begin. You've told yourself, "I'll do it tomorrow," but tomorrow never seems to come. Procrastination isn't just about avoiding tasks. It creates a vicious cycle of anxiety and self-doubt. The more you delay, the more pressure builds up, and the more that nagging feeling of unfinished business chips away at your confidence. It's not just the task itself that's causing stress. It's the weight of knowing you've avoided it, and every day that you put it off, it becomes harder to take action. The longer you wait, the more your confidence erodes, and the greater the fear of failure becomes. The Stoics offer us a way to break free from this cycle with the principle of the dichotomy of control. This Stoic idea teaches us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. We don't control how a task might turn out or how others will perceive our efforts, but we do control our actions, our decisions, and the steps we take. Let's take a look at James, someone who struggled with procrastination. For weeks, James avoided starting a major project for work. Each day, he felt more anxious about it, but the thought of tackling the whole thing felt so overwhelming that he kept pushing it aside. Finally, one day, he decided to take a step back and ask himself, "What can I control right now?" Rather than focusing on the entire project, James broke it down into small, manageable tasks. He reminded himself that the only thing he had control over was taking action, no matter how small that action might be. Instead of thinking about finishing the whole project, he focused on completing one small part at a time. Just making a phone call or writing a single email was enough to get him started. And you know what happened? Once James took that first step, he found himself slowly building momentum. What seemed like a huge, daunting task became something manageable. With each small action, his anxiety lessened and his confidence began to return. The project was no longer something to fear, it was something he could handle, piece by piece. So, what can you do to break the procrastination cycle in your own life? Start today, right now, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Pick one small task you've been avoiding and commit to working on it for only 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Don't think about the whole task and don't pressure yourself to finish. The goal isn't to complete it all at once, it's to take that first step. Once you begin, you'll notice that the anxiety and stress start to fade. The longer you avoid something, the more daunting it becomes. But once you take action, no matter how small, your confidence begins to grow. And the more small actions you take, the more you'll realize that progress isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about acting, even when you're unsure, and trusting that every small step you take adds up over time. It's important to remind yourself, confidence grows when you act, even in small ways. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. Just focus on what you can control. the next step. Keep taking small, consistent actions, and before you know it, that mountain of tasks will be nothing more than a series of manageable hills. So, why wait? Start today. Habit number 4, avoiding difficult conversations. How many times have you found yourself avoiding a conversation that you knew you needed to have? Maybe it's a disagreement with a friend, a tension with a colleague, or an issue with a loved one. The thought of confronting the situation feels like a mountain, so instead of facing it, you push it aside. Days pass, and that nagging feeling in the back of your mind grows stronger. But here's the truth. Avoiding difficult conversations doesn't make them go away. In fact, it only weakens your confidence and builds anxiety, because unresolved issues don't just disappear, they hang over you, making everything feel heavier, and before long, it's not just the situation you're avoiding, it's your own ability to handle confrontation. The longer you put off these conversations, the more you reinforce the belief that you're not capable of dealing with challenges head-on. You begin to feel small, incapable, and unsure of your own strength. But the Stoics offer us a simple yet profound lesson: courage. Courage isn't about having no fear, it's about taking action even when fear is present. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Facing those difficult conversations is the friction that helps polish your character, strengthen your resolve, and ultimately build your self-respect. Let's consider Lisa's story. Lisa worked in a team with a colleague who had a habit of undermining her ideas in meetings. At first, she let it slide, thinking it wasn't a big deal, but over time, the tension between them grew, and Lisa's confidence began to erode. Every time she went into a meeting, she felt anxious, knowing that her ideas might not be respected. The unresolved issue continued to eat away at her self-esteem. One day, Lisa decided enough was enough. Instead of avoiding the confrontation, she took a deep breath and confronted her colleague directly. She calmly explained how she felt and set boundaries for how she wanted to be treated moving forward. Surprisingly, her colleague listened and respected her for speaking up. In that moment, Lisa not only gained her colleague's respect, but also felt a newfound sense of self-respect. She had faced the fear of confrontation, and in doing so, she strengthened her confidence and her ability to handle tough situations. So how can you start building this kind of courage in your own life? Begin by tackling smaller, less intimidating conversations. Maybe it's speaking up for yourself when someone cuts you off in a conversation, or addressing a small misunderstanding with a friend. As you get more comfortable with these small challenges, your confidence will grow, and you'll find it easier to handle bigger conversations. Remember, the key is not to avoid the discomfort. It's to recognize that discomfort is a sign of growth. When you avoid confrontation, you're not just avoiding the issue, you're avoiding your own growth as a person. But when you step into those uncomfortable moments, you show yourself that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. Take a moment to reflect. What's one conversation you've been putting off? What's holding you back? Is it fear, uncertainty, or perhaps a lack of confidence? Whatever it is, know that you have the power to face it. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. So, the next time you find yourself avoiding a difficult conversation, remember that each time you face these challenges, you build not just your confidence but your character. You are capable of more than you realize. Step into your power. Habit number 5. Perfectionism. How often do you find yourself caught in the trap of perfectionism? You want everything to be flawless, so you spend hours on a task, revising, tweaking, and adjusting, only to feel like you're never quite done. Perfectionism might seem like a good thing at first. After all, striving for excellence is admirable, right? But the truth is, this constant pursuit of perfection often leads to procrastination and self-doubt. You put off starting tasks because you're too afraid to make mistakes, and even when you do start, you're never satisfied with the results. The irony is that in trying to achieve perfection, you often end up getting less done and feeling worse about your abilities. The Stoic philosophers have a different approach. They didn't strive for perfection, they aimed for progress. The Stoic principle of focusing on progress over perfection encourages us to let go of the idea that everything needs to be flawless. Instead, the goal is to make consistent incremental improvements. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic thinkers, said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same can be applied to perfectionism. Stop worrying about being perfect and focus on being better, little by little. Let's consider Emma's story. Emma was a graphic designer, and she always felt the need to perfect every detail of her work. She'd spend hours, sometimes days, tweaking colors, fonts, and layout, believing that every little change would make her designs flawless. The problem? She often missed deadlines because she was stuck in a cycle of endless revisions. Her perfectionism led to frustration and self-doubt, and she began to feel overwhelmed by the idea that she would never reach the ideal standard she set for herself. One day, Emma realized something. She wasn't getting any closer to perfection, and her work wasn't improving the way she wanted it to. She decided to embrace the Stoic approach of progress over perfection. Instead of obsessing over every minute detail, she started setting clear deadlines for her projects and focused on completing them instead of making them flawless. As she did this, something amazing happened. She actually began to produce more work, and her confidence started to grow. By accepting that perfection wasn't the goal, she was able to prioritize progress, and this shift in mindset made her more productive and less stressed. So how can you stop the cycle of perfectionism? The first step is to set a deadline for your tasks. This might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to endlessly refining things, but trust me, having a deadline gives you a sense of urgency and helps you focus on completing the task rather than obsessing over it. You can always make adjustments later, but the important thing is to get started and keep moving forward. Think about this. How many times have you delayed a project because you were worried it wouldn't be perfect? How many hours have you spent fine-tuning something that wasn't going to make a real difference in the end? Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for completion. It's better to finish something and improve it later than to never finish it at all. Small steps of progress add up over time, and soon you'll realize that consistent action leads to far more growth than obsessing over every little detail. To start shifting your mindset, ask yourself, what's one thing you're working on right now that you're trying to perfect? What would happen if you focused on making it better instead of perfect? Could setting a clear deadline help you take that first step toward progress? Remember, growth comes from progress, not perfection. Perfection is a never-ending chase that leaves you stuck in place. But when you focus on progress, you'll move forward with confidence, learn from your mistakes, and gradually get closer to your goals. So, take a deep breath and remember, done is better than perfect. Let go of perfectionism and embrace the power of progress. You've got this. Habit number 6, over-apologizing. How often do you find yourself saying, "I'm sorry," even when it's not necessary? You spill a drink, sorry. You're running a few minutes late, sorry. You ask a question, sorry. Over-apologizing may seem like a way to keep things smooth and avoid conflict, but in reality, it undermines your self-respect and projects insecurity. When you apologize for things that don't require an apology, you start to devalue your own presence and actions. You give the message that you don't deserve space or that your mistakes, no matter how small, define you. The truth is, constant apologies diminish your confidence. The Stoics believed deeply in the principles of self-respect and integrity. They taught that we should only apologize when we've truly made a mistake, not because of perceived social discomfort or minor inconveniences. When we apologize for things that don't require it, we weaken our own sense of integrity and self-worth. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, said, "A fool is one who is sorry for everything and afraid of everything." So instead of apologizing for every little thing, we need to learn when it's appropriate to apologize and when it's better to hold our ground and stand by our actions. Let's take Anna's story. Anna was a kind and thoughtful person, but she had a habit of apologizing for everything. It didn't matter if she was a minute late or if she accidentally bumped into someone. It was always an apology. Over time, she realized that she was apologizing so often that her words started to lose their meaning. She felt like her worth was tied to how much she could make others feel comfortable. But one day, something clicked. Anna realized that constantly apologizing wasn't doing her any favors. It was making her feel insecure and less confident. She decided to shift her approach. Instead of apologizing for every little thing, Anna began to differentiate between real mistakes and unnecessary apologies. For example, if she was late to a meeting, she would simply say, "Thank you for your patience," instead of, "I'm sorry for being late." If she needed to ask for help, she would say, "Thank you for your assistance," instead of apologizing for asking. Slowly, she started feeling more confident in her interactions, knowing that she was respecting herself and valuing her own presence. And guess what? People respected her more too. So how can you stop over-apologizing? Here's a simple technique. Replace "I'm sorry" with "thank you" in non-critical situations. For example, if you're running a little late, try saying, "Thank you for waiting," instead of "Sorry, I'm late." If you've asked someone for a favor, try, "Thank you for your help," instead of "Sorry to bother you." This simple shift in language helps you show appreciation without diminishing your self-worth or apologizing for things that don't need an apology. Take a moment to reflect. How many times today have you apologized unnecessarily? Have you apologized for something that wasn't a true mistake or that didn't require an apology? Next time you find yourself about to say, "Sorry," pause and ask yourself, is this truly necessary? If not, choose a more empowering response. By being mindful of your words and actions, you'll stop over-apologizing and start valuing yourself more. Confidence isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you say. When you stop apologizing for the small stuff and focus on your self-respect, you'll see a boost in your confidence and in how others perceive you. So remember, confidence comes from valuing your words and actions. Don't let unnecessary apologies steal your power. Stand by your actions, express gratitude, and watch your self-esteem soar. Habit number 7, dwelling on the past. How often do you find yourself revisiting past mistakes or missed opportunities? You replay the conversation you regret, wonder what you could have done differently, or obsess over a chance that slipped through your fingers. It feels like you're carrying a heavy weight around, doesn't it? The more you focus on the past, the more it drains your energy and confidence. This habit is like an anchor, holding you back from moving forward and robbing you of the power to take action in the present. It's a silent killer of your confidence. The Stoic principle of living in the present moment teaches us to stop dwelling on the past and focus on what we can control now. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius believed that the only moment we truly have is the present. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. What matters is what you do today, in this moment. When you let go of past mistakes or missed opportunities, you free yourself from the mental clutter that keeps you stuck and allows you to act with clarity and purpose. Take Mark, for example. Mark had always been someone who couldn't stop thinking about a missed opportunity in his career. He had turned down a job offer years ago, thinking he could find something better, but things didn't go as planned. Now, every time he thought about it, he felt regret, frustration, and self-doubt. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had ruined his future. But one day, Mark realized that his constant focus on the past was keeping him from making progress in the present. He had been so fixated on what had happened that he couldn't see the possibilities in front of him. Mark decided to shift his focus. He made a conscious effort to stop revisiting that old mistake and instead concentrated on his current goals, small, achievable steps that would move him forward. Slowly, as he worked toward his present ambitions, Mark began to rebuild his confidence and regain his sense of control. The lesson here is clear. Dwelling on the past steals your energy and keeps you stuck in a loop of regret. The more time you spend thinking about what's already gone, the less energy you have to focus on what matters now. The present is the only place where you can create change and move forward. So, how can you stop dwelling on the past? The first step is practice mindfulness daily. Mindfulness helps you stay grounded in the present moment and gives you the tools to let go of past regrets. You can start by taking a few minutes each day to focus on your breath, notice your surroundings, and bring your awareness to the present. When you catch yourself spiraling into thoughts of the past, gently bring your attention back to the here and now. Ask yourself, what can I do today to improve my situation? How can I make progress now, instead of staying stuck in the past? The more you practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to shift your focus from the past to the present. You'll start to feel lighter, less burdened by old mistakes, and more empowered to create the future you want. Take a moment to reflect. What past regrets are you holding on to? What's one small thing you can do today to move forward, even if it's just a step in the right direction? Remember, the past is a lesson, not a life sentence. You don't have to carry the weight of it forever. Let it go and focus on what you can do today. When you focus on the present, you reclaim your power and confidence. So don't let the past control your future. Take action now and watch your confidence grow. Habit number 8, seeking validation from others. How often do you find yourself looking for approval from others? Maybe you post something on social media and wait for likes and comments, or you seek praise at work, constantly wondering if people think you're doing a good job. It's natural to want to be appreciated, but when your confidence starts to depend on others' opinions, that's when things get tricky. Relying on external validation weakens your self-worth and creates a dependency that's hard to break. Every time you seek approval from outside yourself, you're giving away a little bit of your power, unknowingly tying your happiness to what others think. The Stoic principle of inner worth teaches us to rely on our own opinions and judgments rather than seeking validation from others. True confidence doesn't come from being validated by the world. It comes from accepting and valuing yourself for who you truly are. The Stoics believed that our worth is intrinsic, not dependent on external factors like praise, approval, or recognition. When we stop seeking validation from others, we become more resilient, independent, and self-assured. Let's talk about Sophia, a woman who spent years seeking approval at work. She would constantly ask her boss if her ideas were good enough, always checking with colleagues before making any decisions. She wanted everyone's opinion on what she was doing, hoping their validation would reassure her. But despite all the praise and feedback, Sophia still felt insecure. She wasn't confident in her abilities because she was letting other people's opinions define her worth. One day, Sophia had an epiphany. She realized that her need for external approval was holding her back. So, she decided to make a shift. Instead of asking for validation, she started focusing on her own strengths. She took pride in her ideas and her work, valuing her own judgment over others' opinions. As she built this inner confidence, something amazing happened. Her work improved, and so did her relationships with her colleagues. They respected her more because she respected herself. Sophia no longer sought approval from others, and that newfound self-worth transformed her career and her confidence. The key takeaway here is simple. Your self-worth doesn't depend on what others think about you. When you stop seeking validation from the outside world, you open the door to true confidence. Confidence that doesn't waver with every opinion or compliment. So how can you start building inner confidence? Here's a simple strategy. When seeking validation, pause and ask yourself, what do I think about this? Before you look for someone else's approval, take a moment to check in with yourself. Ask, does this decision align with my values? Do I believe in my abilities? What's my opinion on this situation? Trust your own judgment. This shift will help you stop relying on external sources for validation and start strengthening your internal sense of worth. If you catch yourself constantly seeking approval, remind yourself that true confidence comes from within. You don't need to seek others' opinions to feel good about yourself. You are the best judge of your actions, and your worth isn't defined by others' approval. It's a process, starting with small steps, like trusting your decisions or standing by your opinions. Over time, as you continue to practice self-affirmation, you'll notice a shift in how you feel about yourself. Your confidence will come from within, and that's where it's most powerful. Think about this. What would it feel like to stop seeking approval and simply trust your own worth? The next time you're tempted to look for validation, remember, your value is not up for debate. Confidence is a personal journey, and the first step is always trusting in yourself. So, let go of the need for external validation. Trust in your own strength and watch your confidence grow from the inside out. Habit number 9, avoiding risks. How many times have you avoided taking a chance because it felt too risky? Maybe it's not applying for that job you want or putting yourself out there in a new relationship or project. We all have comfort zones, and they feel safe. But here's the thing, when you stay in that comfort zone too long, it begins to stifle your growth and your confidence. Avoiding risks may seem like a good way to protect yourself, but it's actually keeping you stuck, limiting your potential. The Stoic principle of calculated action teaches us that it's not about avoiding risk. It's about taking smart, measured risks. Stoics like Epictetus and Seneca believed in the importance of boldness, but only when it's calculated and aligned with wisdom. It's not about rushing into every challenge head first. It's about making informed decisions and stepping out of your comfort zone when it counts. Let's take Nathan as an example. Nathan had always dreamed of starting his own business. He had the skills, the passion, and the knowledge, but he was terrified of failing. Every time he thought about taking the leap, his mind would race with, what if it doesn't work out? What if I lose everything? He spent years sitting on his dream, too afraid to take the risk. One day, Nathan realized something important. He was never going to grow or gain the confidence he desired as long as he kept avoiding risks. He decided to start small. Instead of diving in head first, he took a calculated approach. He started by researching the market, networking with others, and working on a small side project. Over time, Nathan built the confidence he needed, and when he finally took the leap and started his business, he was ready. Yes, it was still risky, but Nathan had done the work to minimize the uncertainty. By taking that bold yet calculated action, his confidence grew, and so did his success. This story is a great reminder that avoiding risks doesn't lead to growth. Instead, it keeps us stagnant. But how can you start moving toward taking risks, even if they scare you? Here's some actionable advice. Start with small risks. You don't have to make a huge, life-changing decision right away. Begin with little things, like trying something new, speaking up in a meeting, or signing up for a class you've been interested in. These small risks will build your resilience over time, helping you develop the confidence you need for bigger challenges down the road. Imagine this. The next time you're faced with an opportunity to take a risk, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Is it really as bad as you think? Often the fear of failure is worse than failure itself. By taking calculated risks, you teach yourself that failure isn't something to be feared. It's something to learn from. If Nathan had never taken the first step, he would still be stuck in his comfort zone, missing out on the potential growth that came with embracing risk. But by taking calculated actions, he was able to expand his limits and develop greater confidence in himself. Here's the big idea. Confidence grows in the face of calculated challenges. It's through taking risks, smart, measured risks, that we build courage. The next time you're faced with an opportunity, don't shy away from it. Evaluate it, weigh the risks and rewards, and then take the leap. Remember, growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when we push ourselves outside of it. So take those small steps toward the unknown. It's through calculated action and boldness that you'll unlock your true potential. Confidence comes not from avoiding risks, but from facing them head-on. And with each risk you take, you'll find that your confidence grows, and so does your ability to handle whatever life throws your way. Habit number 10, ignoring self-care. How many of us neglect our own well-being in the hustle and bustle of daily life? Whether it's skipping meals, avoiding rest, or pushing ourselves too hard at work, ignoring self-care is a habit that slowly chips away at our confidence. When we don't take care of our bodies and minds, our energy drains, and it becomes harder to show up as our best selves, both mentally and physically. And here's the thing, this neglect doesn't just impact our health, it affects our confidence too. The Stoic concept of eudaimonia, or flourishing, is all about living a life of balance and well-being. Stoics understood that in order to live a meaningful, fulfilling life, we must prioritize not only our mental strength, but also our physical health. Eudaimonia isn't just about wisdom and virtue. It's about having the energy, strength, and peace of mind to live your best life. Self-care is essential to this balance. Without it, we risk losing the very vitality that allows us to take on life's challenges with confidence. Take John's story, for example. John had always been the type to focus on his work, thinking that the more hours he put in, the more successful he'd become. But he quickly realized that his energy was starting to dip, his focus was fading, and his confidence was at an all-time low. He was running on empty, physically and mentally. John was skipping meals, not exercising, and ignoring the stress that was building up. He felt like he was doing everything for everyone else, but nothing for himself. It wasn't until John decided to prioritize self-care that everything started to shift. He started small. He took 10 minutes every morning for mindfulness exercises, focusing on his breath and clearing his mind. He began exercising regularly, even if it was just a walk or stretching to relieve tension. Slowly but surely, John felt his energy returning. He was sleeping better, his mood lifted, and his confidence grew as he noticed the positive changes in his life. This is the power of self-care. It gives you the energy and mental clarity to tackle challenges with confidence. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of work and obligations, but when you neglect your physical and mental health, you're not only harming your well-being, you're undermining your ability to show up with confidence in all areas of life. So how can you begin to prioritize self-care? Start small. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine overnight. Schedule just 10 minutes each day to engage in an activity that recharges you. Maybe it's a short meditation session, stretching your body, or even just taking a walk outside. Small steps can make a big difference, and they can help you build the momentum to integrate larger changes over time. Reflection. Pause. What's one small thing you can do today to take better care of yourself? Maybe it's as simple as taking a few deep breaths or setting an intention to get outside for a walk. What would that look like for you? Remember, taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. When you nurture your body and mind, you're giving yourself the energy and strength you need to face life's challenges with confidence. You're building a foundation of well-being that supports everything else you want to achieve. So, if you're feeling drained, low on energy, or lacking confidence, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly took care of yourself? Self-care isn't selfish. It's the foundation of confidence. It's the first step toward being the best version of yourself. When you feel strong, healthy, and centered, confidence flows naturally. Take a moment to reflect. Taking care of yourself isn't just about looking good or feeling good in the moment. It's about making sure you're strong enough to keep going, to keep growing, and to keep facing life with the courage to act. Confidence starts with self-care. Prioritize yourself today, and you'll find the confidence to take on whatever comes your way. We've explored 10 habits that could be silently killing your confidence, and I hope you've gained some valuable insights into how small changes can have a big impact on your mindset and your life. From doubting your abilities to seeking validation from others, from avoiding risks to neglecting self-care, each of these habits can slowly erode your self-worth and limit your potential. But here's the good news: you don't have to stay stuck in these patterns. The Stoic principles we've discussed, like focusing on the present moment, practicing self-control, and embracing calculated risks, are powerful tools for transformation. When you incorporate these principles into your daily life, you create a solid foundation of confidence that no external factor can shake. By recognizing and breaking free from these destructive habits, you are already on your way to reclaiming your inner strength and self-assurance. The Stoic mindset teaches us that the path to true confidence lies in understanding what is in our control and what is not. When we focus on our thoughts, actions, and habits, things that we can control, we unlock our fullest potential. Remember, confidence isn't about being perfect or never doubting yourself. It's about cultivating the resilience to push forward even when things aren't going your way. Confidence is built one day at a time through small, intentional actions. As we learned with the habits of perfectionism, comparison, and self-doubt, it's the small shifts in mindset that lead to big transformations. Small changes lead to big transformations. Whether it's choosing to focus on your strengths, letting go of past mistakes, or investing time in self-care, these little actions compound over time and have a profound impact on your confidence. Each step you take toward building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself brings you closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. So, now it's your turn. Which of these habits are you ready to tackle first? Which one speaks to you the most? Is it letting go of perfectionism, or perhaps stopping the cycle of seeking constant validation from others? Whatever it is, know that you have the power to change. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you start. If this video resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments which habit you'll work on first. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your journey toward a more confident, stoic life. Don't forget, change doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, you'll see incredible results. Remember, confidence is within your reach, and it starts with the decisions you make today. Make them count. Take control, focus on what you can change, and trust in the power of small actions to create lasting transformation. Thanks for watching. And remember, the Stoic path isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Keep moving forward, and the confidence will follow.